So I was just doing a little rewatch of the Conor McGregor Dustin Poirier fight, and I started to realize, what were I was trying to take away what were the reasons why Conor actually lost, um, and then what did Poirier do very well. I know a lot of people did analysis and everything already, but just some of the takeaways from, in my opinion, what Conor was lacking. Like Conor, if you watch the first fight, and if you watch a lot of Conor's previous fights when he was at featherweight, especially, you would notice that he did take more of a karate type of approach. Right, it was a mix between boxing and karate in terms of his stance and movement. He wouldn't, he wasn't content just to stand in front of his opponents. He would always be moving. He would always be bouncing in and out, in and out. He wouldn't just kind of just stay here, heavy on the lead leg, right? So, I mean, a lot of people already pointed this out. He's been very much boxing focused lately, and because of that, you can tell like he's very heavy on his lead leg. It's pretty much open season if you're a low kicker, calf kicker, especially in the game now, like MMA. It like the calf kick it's almost like the new jab in a way. It's like it's just so destructive and so effective that you can't afford to be super heavy on your front leg and fight a decent kick, even a half decent kicker, and expect to just have your calf survive in that kind of situation. So like what I noticed was Connor, it's like he, rather than evolving, he kind of like he's devolved in a way, because when he first was fighting, he would have such a large array of attacks that he'd come out with. He would come out with the front kick. He would, even in the first fight with Poirier, he came out with a hook kick. He threw a lot more kicks in that fight. And even with his punches were just like, okay, he's a boxer. We're talking about the boxing. Most of the punches he threw in his fight were a jab cross. That's it. Lunge and jab, follow up with the cross behind it. Always to the head for the most part. He landed across to the body a few times, but for the most part, he would close the distance, boom, with the jab, boom, with the with the left hand, and he would land it sometimes here and there. But the biggest issue is that, one, Poirier started to get that timing. Two, when you lunge in, like after that initial lunge, especially a guy like Conor who really likes to fire the left hand super hard. He likes to put everything into that. You can even see that he kind of swims his hand. He doesn't even really pop it and then bring it back. He'll throw so much power into that left hand. His head will be over his front knee. All that weight is planted on the front leg. He can't explode back out. It's not really possible. So a lot of the times he'll throw it. All that weight's on the front leg. If he doesn't knock out Poirier with that punch, if he doesn't hurt him with that punch, if he doesn't get him questioning, Poirier's going to absorb it. Either he's going to absorb it on his guard, which he really did very well. He started to get Conor's timing. So almost after he did get touched a few times in the first round, especially in the second round, he would see the jab coming. He's like, all right, the two is coming. Like, because there's no variety to Conor's attack. He's like, oh, the jab's coming? Okay, the two's coming. And then as soon as that happened, inside leg kick. Boom, outside leg kick. He didn't really have to think like too much in terms of Conor's attack. Conor's was just a boxing kind of focus. And you did notice in the second round, he did start to throw some leg kicks and mix some leg kicks in there. Conor did. But it was already too late. Like, his legs chewed up. His mobility is pretty much trash at that point. And it was interesting because you actually noticed that when he didn't have this wide, right, this kind of wider front leg heavy kind of stance, like boxing stance, right, in the second round, when he had a little bit of a shorter stance, he had way more success. Like, even though he won the first round, obviously got knocked out in the second, in that second round, when his stance was a bit shorter, he could get off combinations a little bit quicker. He could throw his high kicks, even threw high kicks. He even threw some leg kicks and was able to get there without really getting too much punishment in return from Dustin. So most of the, for the most part with Conor, had he affected that more of a karate stance, right? If you're going to affect that stance, you're going to be moving, right? We're going to be moving. If I have my karate stance, I'm not staying in the pocket and we're just going to stay here and play around, right? If I have my karate stance, right, my long karate stance or traditional martial arts stance, I'm bouncing. I'm using that to move. I'm using that to gauge distance. I'm using that to come in and out, in and out, in and out. Right? You even saw Conor do that against Jose Aldo. In their fight, Conor came out. He has his karate stance going. He threw some side kicks to the front leg, hop back out, threw his left, hop back out. He was mobile. He was fighting more of a. It was less of a boxing approach and more of a karate / mixing in obviously the boxing as well. You know what I mean? And that's what I saw in this fight. Particularly, what really lost in the fight besides the leg kicks was overthrowing on that left hand, planting all that weight forward, having your head all the way forward. There's a couple times that he threw that left and came with like a shovel or up jab and landed on Poirier a couple of times. But the finishing sequence, or the beginning of the end, is when his legs already chewed up. He's like, okay, I'm just going to try and see what I can throw at you. It was almost like the first Nate Diaz fight all over again. It was almost like, except in that fight, he was throwing too many attacks, and in this fight, he was too limited in his attack. So he needs to find and strike a balance if he wants to have success against any opponent. I mean, it doesn't even matter. Any other person watching that would possibly have a similar approach against Conor, next time out. So throwing, he throws, explodes, all that weight's on that front leg, everything's forward. He can't possibly shoot back out or not far enough to actually make it, count or matter. He throws, he tries to throw that up jab, but his hand, because he's swimming that left hand so much, boom, he's swimming it and he's trying to throw up and he's already leaving left side of his face open. Poirier was slick, already kind of understood the timing on that. Check hook out, boom, circle out, move around. Notice that Conor couldn't really move and he was a little bit stunned by that shot. That's where was that was the beginning and the end. He just finished with a nice little combination. Got Conor up against the fence and finished the show. So, takeaways, Conor needs to bring some of those tools back that he used to use that actually made his boxing game more dangerous. Because if I can predict that you're only going to use 1, 2, 3, 4 attacks, I almost feel like your game is completely shut down unless you're mixing it in differently. He would explode in with the jab cross constantly. After a while, I'm like, oh, I feel it. You can feel the timing of it. And he was so stubborn and sticking to that for Poirier, he's like, okay, I'm feeling comfortable now. I feel like I'm in the fight. Plus, he had a great game plan, Poirier. His corner, I heard some of the corner work. They were spot on. He was like, yeah, he's waiting for that pull counter. Conor, he was saying, that Conor's waiting for the pull counter, that anytime that Poirier will throw a strike, Conor's going to pull and try and return with his left hand. And I think that's another issue with Conor. Conor tries to, with his countering game at times, he tries to just every single opening he sees, he'll try to exploit it. But that kind of burns him out. I think that's part of the reasons why he gets burnt out and loses gas in the fights, because he's just to remain. Obviously, you have to be locked in a fight, of course, right? You have to see what your opponent's doing. But to be so locked in, and every single opportunity that you see, you throw everything into it, you're gonna gas out. What you got to do is you pop. Why Mayweather was great with the pull counter is because he wouldn't throw everything behind his right hand. He would pull, boom, he'll hit you with a little shot. Pull, boom. Pull, he would hit you with just a nice little a popping shot. It's still going to sting, still going to hurt, but it wasn't like I'm going to finish the show with the shot. So Conor needs to work on managing his energy as he always needs to. Everybody knows that by now. He needs to work on that. He needs to work on bring some other tools into his game so he can actually let his boxing flourish, right? Mixing some feints, some front kicks, right? Front kick, boom, boom. Then you can kind of explode it, right? Go to the body a little bit with your jab. Don't just go, right? Here am I, like, I'm giving, like, coaching advice to Conor McGregor, but you know what? I know what I know. And I think that he definitely needs to go back to the drawing board. I think he should fight somebody else other than Dustin Poirier and build back to that because it's too soon. Obviously, he needs to work some kinks out of his game. And, you know, I think it was just a beautiful performance by Dustin Poirier. After round one, I picked Conor to win. I was like, Conor's going to win round one, KO, blah, blah, blah. But after, like, right at the last 30 seconds of round one, I was like, oh my God, he's going to lose. Like, he's good. Like, I was watching it. I was just like, man, his right leg is done. Like, he's done. And he didn't take the stool in between rounds. I was like, not a good sign. Not in round two. You can't have no mobility against a hard hitter like Poirier. So it was a great fight. Congrats to Poirier. And yeah, maybe I'll do more of these kind of analyses in the future. Hope you enjoyed.